Welcome back. Union Pacific beating expectations despite the soaring price of diesel and an uncertain economic backdrop. The company is one of the nation's largest railroads with over 32,000 miles of track. Joining us live now, Lance Fritz, Union Pacific Chairman, President, and CEO. Lance, great to have you on the program this morning. Appreciate you taking the time. On the earnings results, you said that the second quarter was a tough one. Can you outline a little bit more with more detail exactly what the quarter looked like for you and what challenges specifically you're facing now?
Yeah, Brian, as we exited the first quarter, we started seeing some congestion on the railroad, and it really peaked at the about middle of April. And so we had been telling our owners through the second quarter that we were going to do some dramatic, swift measures to get the congestion out of the railroad and start recovering the service product. That included limiting volume by reducing the amount of excess equipment that was in the network, and then also experiencing the excess costs of having increased resources to spool up the network. All of that came true. So the operational financial results for the quarter were pretty tough, but we did exactly what we said we were going to do, which is improve the service product through the quarter from the bottom half of April all the way through June, and we did exactly that.
So I guess give us a little bit of a preview into what the situation might look like for the broad supply chain, at least where you live, which is in the railroad industry, for the second half of this year. I understand that you noted that stronger second half volumes are expected. You feel pretty okay about the capacity of Union Pacific to deal with that volume?
We do. We feel bullish. So given our performance through the second quarter, the improvement in the service product from mid-April, we think that continues through the second half, particularly in the third quarter, as we get the service product back to normal. And as that occurs, we're going to see volumes grow. Our markets remain pretty strong right now. We have good, strong markets in grain and grain products. There's good demand in coal. There's good demand in metals and minerals. Automotive was strong for us in the quarter. We think it's going to remain better year over year in the back half. Domestic intermodal is good, and we're winning new business. Through the second quarter, we continued to develop business effectively. So we feel very good about our volumes in the back half.
What kind of situation are you facing on the labor front? We know that the labor shortage has been something that's perhaps a reason for why you haven't been able to deliver on the types of volume that you were hoping to. Is that alleviating right now? Do you see signs of, being able to deliver the type of service at the quality you want to deliver it at? Because, obviously through this whole post-pandemic period, maybe it's been a struggle to kind of keep that quality standard up.
Yeah, Brian, we really, at the back half of the first quarter, we found ourselves getting tight on labor availability. That was mostly about having the right resources on our crew boards and our employment, but it also was about how we were using them. We were getting into excess crew utilization, and we had to get that under control. We did, and our hiring engine accelerated. And so right now we've graduated about, call it 480 crews into the network. We have about 500 plus in training. We're going to graduate another 400 in the third quarter, and our utilization of those crews has improved. So from a labor perspective, we're in pretty good place, and we're also getting to the end of our national round of labor negotiations, which has lasted a long time, and it's a long time coming. Our team deserves to see a raise in the near future. They've gone about 2.5 or 3 years without one.
Lance, you mentioned those negotiations, the president getting involved this week to try to find a resolution. This has been something, though, that's been going on for, 2.5 or 3 years? So why the optimism over getting this resolved here? I mean, it seems like maybe if this were resolved a little bit earlier, perhaps some of the operation efficiency issues maybe wouldn't have been as elevated as they were during the last few years.
Brian, I think you're exactly right. I wish we could have gotten an agreement earlier in the process, but the railroads and the union leadership are pretty far apart right now in terms of what we think is an appropriate settlement on wages. So what's going to happen now is the Presidential Emergency Board is going to hear both sides, and then they're going to propose what they think is a reasonable agreement. Then we'll have 30 days to negotiate off that and reach agreement. I'm hopeful we will do that. If not, a strike or a lockout could occur. In the current environment, I can't imagine that being a good idea. And if it looks like that's going to happen, Congress has the opportunity to step in and impose an agreement And historically, that's basically been what the PEB recommends. So we all know that. We're going to look to see what comes out of the Presidential Emergency Board. And then I anticipate we're going to negotiate to an agreement from that.
Is it more than about wages? I mean, obviously, it's not just one number that you're trying to arrive at. And I also want to be fair in noting that it's not just Union Pacific. That's the only company at the table here. But what other types of issues is the union bringing to the table? And are there ways that the railroads can actually meet them in the middle?
Yeah, 100%, Brian. So what the railroads, what management is looking for is reasonable wage increases that are reflective of what's happened in the economy in 2020, 21, 22, 23, and 24. This is a 5-year wage package. We're also looking for reasonable modernization of work rules, things that have lasted decades and decades that really technology can handle today. We're also looking at a reasonable step in the right direction when it comes to healthcare. Our healthcare plan is a Cadillac plan. And what we need to do is continue to take steps towards mainstream plans for large union employers. So that's what management's looking for. And labor, of course, has a different perspective on many of those topics. I think there is a place to be able to strike an agreement, and I think we're going to get to one.
All right, Lance Fritz, Union Pacific CEO, thanks so much for taking the time to stop by our show. Really appreciate it. Have a good one.